Let's move on to feeding and natural forage. It's important to remember that bees require a lot of resources to grow their colony. So if you're starting out brand new with brand new equipment such as this, it's important to be mindful about what the bees are getting in nature, what we can do to support them in their colony growth. Feeding can be a very important spring task that often is overlooked in beekeeping. We often think that there are lots of resources out in nature and that our bees will have more than enough collecting nectar and pollen from the flowers. This isn't always the case. When you're starting beekeeping brand new, those bees have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of comb to build and they have a lot of stores, a lot of food to store. So when your colony is growing, developing, and building their new home, it's important to be mindful of how much we're feeding them, or if we are feeding them at all. Do they have enough to be healthy and continue to grow? We're going to talk a little bit about what the difference is between things like nectar or sugar syrup and pollen. So not all food for bees is the same. And when we first get our colonies and we're first introducing them to our brand new equipment, it's important that we know what they need to establish that space to become a good, healthy, well-functioning colony through the summer. So one of the most important things for our new bees is wax production. Like we said, we talked about this a little earlier, our new colonies need a lot of wax. The queen needs wax for laying eggs, as well as the worker bees. They're going to need wax when there's lots of natural forage and they're out collecting nectar to make honey. So if we're setting our hives up at the beginning with very good nutrition, that's going to help them grow into a healthy colony through the summer. Supplemental feeding is an important part, especially in our area here in Alberta, where we are getting longer, cooler springs where there's not a lot naturally for bees. So supplemental feeding with things like a sugar syrup, a 1-to-1 sugar syrup, 1 part sugar, 1 part water, is going to encourage our bees to build comb. We often are putting that inside the colony, which makes it very easy for the bees to access that and process it into wax. The faster our bees can establish within their new equipment, the faster those bees, the queens, can lay more eggs and the colonies can grow. And the higher the chance of you seeing honey in that first season is going to be. So I am referring to that feeding for comb building as sugar syrup. So sugar syrup is going to be a replacement for nectar, carbohydrate source for your bees. It's going to be what bees need to build wax, to have energy, and they also use it to feed developing larvae. So it's very, very important. And then you will hear people say you need to feed your bees pollen. There's lots of pollen available naturally. It's one of the earlier things we're seeing for forage for our bees. Very early in the season, you're going to see some good willow forage on pollen. There is a good source of pollen, but supplementing those brand new bees, making it a little bit easier for them to grow, can help them along the way. So pollen primarily is a protein source. The bees aren't using that for energy, but rather they're using that to feed their young larvae. The nurse bees in our brood nest, which we talked about a little bit earlier, they're going to take some of that nectar or sugar syrup and they're going to take some of that pollen and they're going to make something called bee bread. And bee bread is what is fed to the developing larvae of your colony. And the really fascinating thing about honeybee colonies is that the queen is never going to lay more eggs than her colony can support. And so there's a few things that determine how productive your queen is, and again, how fast your colony will grow. And having enough food resource is one of those things. So the queen will determine how many eggs she's going to lay in a day by how many worker bees she has, how much space she has to lay eggs, as well as how much food resource she has. So if you have a colony that's growing and is short on resources, it's going to really be detrimental to the growth of that colony, and you're not going to see your queen performing at her optimal potential. So making sure our colonies are well fed is one of the best ways to see good growth and healthy summer colonies.